A small pirate child named Percy steers a talking ship named Laughingstock. Percy is petrified, steering through the horrific sea storm as Laughingstock cheers him on gleefully, egging him on to go into a place called Bravery Cave. Percy whimpers, and he says that there's something in there, even though it's really dark. The ship laughs in agreement. Yep, there is. Welcome to Below the Forest Floor. I am your host, Nancy, and today we are going to be talking about the creepypasta, Candle Cove. I have heard bits and pieces about this story throughout the years, but never looked into it until now. The story is a bit different than your normal tall tale, as it centers around a set of reviews by a few adults claiming that they remember the show from their youth in the 70s, a show called Candle Cove. If this creepypasta was written in the form of reviews, then where did I get this scene from that I described earlier? Well, the Sci-Fi Channel. Yes, this story has become so popular since its release in 2009 that the Sci-Fi Channel even created their own rendition of what an episode would look like on their YouTube. Not sponsored, by the way, but maybe someday. I would like to start off this episode by sharing with you all the story of how this all started, but please remember to visit the author's personal site at ichorfalls.org. That's ICHORFALLS.org to get the full background to this creepypasta and the ones that go with it, because this is a series. This is a universe that this person is creating. And this person's name is Chris Straub, and this is how this story goes. Guys Hail 33, subject Candle Cove, local kids show? Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Candle Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike Painter, 65, reply. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland and was 9 years old in 1972. Candle Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. SkySail033 reply. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll. It looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. Oh, I don't think it was WTSF though. Jaren 2005 reply. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean, Skies Hail. I think Candle Cove ran for only a couple of months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and I watched it a few times with my brother. It was on channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was Calliope music constantly playing. I don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. SkyShail33 reply. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the Laughingstock and Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden smiling face with the lower jaw submerged completely. It looked like it was swallowing the sea, and it had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden/plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike Painter 65 reply. Haha, I remember now too. Do you remember this part, Skysail? You have to go inside. Skysail reply. Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in. like a cave or a dark room where there was treasure. And the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and the fishing line that opened and closed it. Ugh, it just looked so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall narrow teeth. Kevin Hart reply. I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was like 5 when this show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren 2005. That wasn't the villain. The puppet with the mustache that was the villain's sidekick, Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of a mustache. I used to think that meant that he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe they let us watch that back then. Kevin Hart reply. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker? What kind of a kids show are we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape. And his glass eyes that were too big for his skull? Christ almighty. Skies Hell 33 reply. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Mike Painter 65 reply. Yeah, I think so. Remember his mouth didn't open and close? His jaw just slid back and forth? I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl, but at the camera and said, "To grind your skin." Skies Hail 33 reply. I am so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming, and the puppets and the marionettes were all flailing spastically, and just all screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. Kevin Hart reply. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. Skies Hill 33 reply. No, not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally. Just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin Hart reply. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God, I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Jaren 2005 reply. Oh God, yes! The little girl, Janice, I remember seeing her shake, and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so wildly, I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off, and it was the last time I watched it. I ran to tell my brother, and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike Painter reply. I visited my mom today in the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little, in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kids show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why. She said because I used to think it was so strange that you said, I'm gonna go watch Candle Cove now, Mom. And then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show. And that's it. That is the end of that story, and that is how that creepypasta goes. I read that for the first time just now while telling you guys about it because I was a little too creeped out to do it beforehand, and I am so freaked out at this. I would never imagine a story being told through the point of view of reviews, first of all, and made it feel so real. It made it feel so scary and true. And I'm super excited to check out the rest of Chris Straub's stuff because I can't imagine what other things happen in this universe. Many people ended up believing that these reviews were not only true, but started saying that they remembered the show as well. Of course, you always have those people who want to just kind of be involved and say, oh yes, but I remember it. It can't just be a story because I remember this and this happened and so did this. But you also have the people who actually have started to believe that they remember this. And that's the scary part, in my opinion, because these are people who are out there actually having nightmares and thinking that these things actually occurred. Personally, for me, I am so scared of these kinds of things. I would never want to even pretend that I imagined something like this happening. It's horrifying. Now let's move on to characters, shall we? Let's talk about our main character, Janice. According to lore and conversations had around the web, if she is killed, the person that kills her becomes the main character, which is why Horace and the Skin Taker love the thought of having her gotten rid of. But Horace wants to become the main character, so that's why his main goal is to get rid of her. She is apparently also very afraid of what the puppets are doing around her and cries and shakes, and it looks like she's just having a really bad time. I know they say that she has imagined this world of Candle Cove, but I can't imagine why a child would want to put themselves in that situation. Another character, which is our main villain of the entire show, is called the Skin Taker. The Skin Taker was also known to persuade characters such as Percy to harm others and even caused people to kill. He himself is an antagonist of the show, but unlike most children's shows where the villain is defeated quite often, this hardly ever happens. The Skin Taker runs amok, causing mayhem and murders across the land of Candle Cove. Everything about this marionette is unsettling from the start, including how I stated earlier where he was chewing what people believe to be skin in the opening episode. He just grinds his teeth menacingly a lot of the time, and that's how he technically speaks. The Skin Taker is actually very convincing also. People say he can get people to do what he wants, including having Percy hurt others and cause mayhem. Percy is a scout for the talking ship Laughingstock, and he's absolutely afraid of everything, which causes him to lash out at other characters physically. It is said that when he begins to feel afraid of the characters around him, that he will pull out a knife and swing wildly at them without remorse. Except for Poppy, that is. Why would someone do that? Can you imagine this small puppet child being so afraid of everything that if someone gets near him, he immediately is trying to hurt them and trying to stop them from getting closer? The fear that pirate child must have in his soul must be completely detrimental to his health. But he does not act this way to Poppy. Poppy is the ship's first mate and the most courageous character in the show. He is very kind towards the females in the show and most any other character. But he does treat Percy quite poorly because of his cowardness. Poppy is so brave that he is the reason the Skin Taker is only a skeleton. To avenge the victims that the Skin Taker had a hand in, Poppy himself skinned the Skin Taker. Poppy doesn't just treat Percy poorly, he straight up bullies him for just being a scared kid. And honestly, I would feel a lot worse for Percy if he wasn't trying to slash at people and hurt others. Our last character that we are going to be mentioning is Horace Horrible. Horace Horrible isn't really that horrible on his own. He's actually just a B-grade villain, but he is responsible for summoning the Skin Taker. There isn't a lot of information on how he did it or when he did it, but it is a very well-known rumor around the internet that he is the reason that all these actual terrible things are even happening. But my personal opinion is that the show would have been horrible even without Skin Taker because of all the other characters. I didn't want to really talk a lot about Laughingstock because there's not much to say except for the fact that he's just another one of Percy's bullies because he forces him to do things he doesn't want to do, like going into dark places that make Percy afraid. I understand they're pirates, they have to go to places to find treasure, but the fact that Percy is that fearful of things just means he either shouldn't be a pirate or that the ship and others really should not force him to do things that he doesn't want to do. I don't think I'll ever look at puppets the same way again after this episode, but for me, this is why Candle Cove belongs here with us, below the forest floor. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, everyone. I hope to see you all in the next one on February 18th. If you would like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all future episodes, or to check out behind the scenes stuff, or even read what I've been writing out for myself, you can check out our Patreon. Have a great day and we'll see you soon. Bye!